Hi, it's so good to be back. I keep getting so many questions on social media from people who want to start their oil painting journeys but are too intimidated because honestly it sounds quite complex. Mediums and solvents are such big words and honestly I can't blame you guys, but I'm here to help. I taught oil painting to myself by just watching YouTube videos, and although having a background in art, like a little knowledge of color theory might help your case, there is absolutely no harm in dipping your hands into something completely new and getting really messy. So let's start right off. This video is going to be about what materials you need to buy, how to use them, what are some alternatives, can I reduce costs because oil painting can be a little bit tricky, and how to be safe while painting with oils because frankly I have had one too many incidents now. Let's not talk about that.
You will be needing oil paints, mediums, surface to paint on, a palette, brushes, double dippers, rags and towels.
Oil paint is a slow drying form of paint, which I love and prefer because I like to take my own sweet time when I'm painting, and if the color which I have so painstakingly mixed dries up whilst I'm painting, I will let it crash out. There's two kinds of oil colors, professional grade and student grade oil paints. Professional grade is richer in pigment, so that means it is more expensive. I have used both grades of paints and honestly there isn't much of a difference. I mean, I painted this with professional grade and this with student grade and you cannot really see any difference. And the end product is satisfactory enough for me as well as the people who bought them. So if you're just starting out, I would recommend that you buy student grade oil paints so that you can really see if you actually like oil painting at all, and you can invest in, professional grade oil paints. There are so many brands as well. I am from India, so I have always used Camlin all my life, but when I started selling my paintings, when I started earning cash, when I started earning the bread and the butter, I started buying fancier and pricier brands like Winsor & Newton or PBO, I don't know how to pronounce that. Now comes the scary part of mediums and solvents, but don't crash out just yet. Let's begin with what is a medium. So a medium is basically a substance that is used to change the properties of your paint, like the consistency or the drying time. Imagine you're working with a water-soluble paint like acrylics or gouache. You add more water to change the consistency, like to make the color more transparent, or you add more water so that it dries fast, right? That's basically the job of a medium. In oil painting, we use mediums like linseed oil or liquid to change the consistency or drying time. I have used both and both are honestly perfectly fine to use. You can use either one. There's also so many types. There's like a slow drying, there's a fast drying, there is glossy, matte. But for a beginner, I would recommend starting with linseed oil as it has like a standard drying time of like around 7 days. Yes, you heard it right. The color stays wet for 7 days. Now, solvents. Solvents are used to clean brushes or to thin out oil paint, so like if you want to give a wash, you should use solvents. Turpentine is a nice solvent, but it actually has quite a strong smell, so if you're someone who's sensitive to strong odors, you should use odorless mineral spirits. There are also a lot of scented options available, but they are on the expensive side. Even if you buy turpentine, you just have to make sure that wherever you're working, your workspace has nice ventilation, it has huge windows and everything, so that should work out for you. Now, because you're a clever audience, you would ask, why can I not use a medium to give washes? Because a medium can change the consistency as well, right?
Hey, what's going on?
Brilliant question. Which brings me to a very important concept in oil painting. It's kind of a solid principle, you cannot break it because otherwise you can't paint with oils. It is called fat over lean. So medium is fat, think like more color, more paint, more oil, and lean is basically less paint, more solvent. That is all you need to remember. Think of it as building a house. You would want the foundation to be nice and dry before adding more layers to the top, right? In oil painting, because the layers don't dry fast enough, the paint keeps moving. So the base should consist of almost purely solvent mixed with paint, and then add more medium and more pure oil color to the outermost layers of your painting. If you don't follow this rule and you put a lean layer over a fat medium, the lean layers are going to dry quickly, meaning that the fat layer underneath is still wet, and the painting might look dry to touch, but over time it will start developing cracks, and that will be a nightmare. Next on the list is a palette. For oil painting, we don't use palettes with those ready-made compartments. We actually use a flat surface with a neutral tone. I have seen those really serious professional artists use those fancy wooden palettes, but me personally, I like to use a glass cutting board which belongs in the kitchen. My workstation is white, so I did not need to buy a neutral tone palette, so I just, place the glass on the table and start working. Let me show you. It is white, so I don't really have to buy. Well, if it wasn't, I would simply tape a grey piece of paper on the back of the glass and call it a day. I do that because it helps you judge the values, the chroma, the tone of the color. You don't have to buy a palette or even like a glass surface for this. You all must have photo frames in your house. Just take the frame apart, pull out the glass, and there you have a glass palette on your own. Just be careful to tape the edges of the glass, otherwise you'll cut yourself. And you genuinely don't want oil paints or solvents to mix with your bloodstream. Like they're not toxic by themselves, but usually things are non-toxic as long as you don't give them permission to be toxic. You get my point? You need strong, sturdy surfaces to paint on. The surface, first of all, needs to be primed. So by priming, I mean the surface is prepared by coating it in a layer that seals and supports the canvas. It creates a smooth and even surface and ensures that the paint sticks to it. So if you use a normal paper for oils, it will just get absorbed in the paint. The paper will probably tear apart, and I want to throw something at something just at the thought of it. So for beginners, I would recommend that you buy canvases or oil paper, as they are already prepared to start right away and it'll be easier for you. There are more surfaces you can paint on, but that requires you priming them yourself, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in this video. Next up, bristle brushes. I am not going to lie, I have used and do use synthetic brushes, but I have genuinely murdered so many brushes in like the past 5 years. It's a little bit concerning. See, solvents are quite harsh in nature and they will literally wear your brush down, but bristle brushes are made to withstand that wear and tear. They will last longer. Secondly, synthetics are great at blending, but I feel like they're too smooth. I mean, if that's your thing, that's completely fine as well. But recently, I've been really enjoying painting loosely and actually seeing all those brush strokes in my painting, rather than making the painting look like an actual photo and making myself look like a Xerox machine. It's just not my thing anymore. So I prefer using bristle brushes. Also, like, you don't even need like a lot of brushes. I personally own quite few. You just need like a couple of flat brushes, a couple of round brushes. These are filberts. I don't really use them. I started disliking them. I don't know why. I do have like some synthetics over here, but you can see like these are like bent out of shape, and I bought these like 1 year before. These, however, I bought them like 3 years ago, and these are still like good as new. So good, and I love them. I also really like that they have, long handles, because it's just so easier and fun to paint when you're holding a brush like way back. You can, like chill and relax. I also have like a couple of pointed brushes. These are great for detail. As you can see, these are synthetic ones and have lost it, but I couldn't find any bristle brushes which have like finer points, so I'm just using this. I keep like throwing them out every 3 months or something and buying new, but yeah, whatever. Towels and rags is another thing you don't need to buy. You can literally cut out your old clothes and use them as rags, and that is extremely environmentally friendly. And this is what I used to do when I was back home in India, but I can't do it over here because I can't afford to cut up my clothes right now. So right now I'm using kitchen towels. Whatever works for you. These were all the basic materials that you need to buy. So if you have these things, you're all set to start painting. However, there are some items in my inventory which I genuinely find really useful, and if you have some wiggle room in your budget, it would be really handy to have them as well. The first one is gesso. Gesso is the primer I was talking about. Once you have that, the options for surfaces to paint on increase by a lot. If you have a nice thick watercolor paper, you can just prime the surface and voila. You can paint on it with oils. You know those cake boards that the bakers use as a base? You can prime that with gesso and boom, you have a painting surface. If you have a photo frame, the back is usually wooden, right? So what I like to do is I like to prime this surface because I really like painting on a wooden panel. You can just prime that and have a painting already set in frame. Big brain time, baby. I personally love a smooth finish on my surface. So I just coat pre-primed canvases with 2 more layers of gesso and then paint. The next one is painting knives. I think painting knives should have been in the basic materials, but that's fine. Painting knives are generally used to, add texture to your paint, but I use it to mix paint. Let me tell you why. Let's say you're mixing a shade of Prussian blue with a brush, okay? You wash the brush and now you want to mix some sort of yellow with it. But the pigment from the blue, it wasn't really washed off well, and now it has traveled up the surface of the brush and it has reached the base and has settled down. So now your yellow is a weird shade of green and you want to understandably throw up. So painting knife is a lifesaver because you can just wipe it off and you're good to go. The next item I have on my inventory is a glass scraper. If you're someone who's responsible, who cleans their palette on time, you don't need this. But if you're anything like me, who's delusional enough to believe that I will be painting later this week or that I will actually finish something that I've started, you need this, girl. The amount of times that I've returned to a crusty, dry palette, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. This scrapes all dried paint nicely and saves so much cleanup time for me. Love it. Love this. Honestly, that is all that you need, and that is all that I used as a beginner personally, and I was fine. But please, even though oil paint isn't toxic by itself, painting in poorly ventilated areas is a huge health risk as the solvents exude fumes and that can cause breathing problems, and we genuinely do not want that. No flames around oil paints. Oil paints are flammable. Please do not burn your house down, not in this economy. Do not pour your solvents or mediums down the drain because that will clog your drain up and the plumbing fees are just not worth it. Do not also dispose of your solvents and mediums or used paper towels out in the nature because we are educated people and we shouldn't be littering in this day and age. And especially if you have a brain, if you still litter, that's just an ick. So no, please. So let's love our planet and not worsen the already horrible situation that we are in. That was all from my side. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments. And if you have any suggestions or tips, let's help each other in getting better at something that we love. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful and inspiring day ahead. Bye.